So, did you see that new ad that Apple put out? If you're here watching this video, it is probably because you did see that ad, and very possibly you also read what I wrote on social media about it, which is an opinion that appears to be vastly different than a lot of people that are professional journalists or people even in our retro computing hobby. But I thought that it would be important to maybe just make a quick video to better communicate what my interpretation was, so that way that there isn't any room for confusion. So the ad opens with a lot of creative things on this platform. There's a player piano, there's paint, there's a typewriter, there's all kinds of different doodads and things out there. And when the music starts, the ceiling starts coming down, and what we realize is that those items are being crushed, they're being squished. And as it goes on, more and more things are squished, and it finally gets down to the entire thing is flat. And then when it lifts back up, we see a brand new model, a thinner model of iPad. Okay. So I think what the interpretation is that I'm hearing for a lot of other people is that they saw that as Apple maybe mocking creative people that use their products, with the idea that, you know, these other things are now obsolete. These things that you have a very deep personal connection to are antiquated. You should give those up and instead get an iPad. That is not what my interpretation was at all. As somebody who travels a lot, I appreciate the fact that you can take certain experiences along with you, even in a limited form. So a device like an iPad is very useful for somebody like me because you can hop on a plane and you can ride from New York to LA and work on a project, or you can edit video, or you can play a game, or you can do a lot of different stuff on it. Not just the latest version. This has been something that you've been able to do forever. So it's just the new one is thinner, and so they squished it flat to emphasize how thin it is, I guess. So my interpretation was, from somebody that comes at it from that point of view, which is, I like to do all these neat creative things, but I need to be able to do them on the go in a very compact way that doesn't have me checking 6 bags on a United flight, that I can have this one device and do a close approximation of a lot of those things. But it feels like, again, that a lot of people saw that as a either criticism or kind of a slap in the face, that those items are no longer valid, that your fandom or your personal connection to those things are invalid. That wasn't my interpretation. It appears that that was a lot of people's interpretation, though. But a lot of these professional journalists that seem to be hopping on this, I have to wonder how much of their connection with these other items is based in their socioeconomic situation and the idea that there's one right way to do things. Years and years ago, I remember that there was this sort of idea that viewing a virtual museum tour or viewing a painting over the internet was somehow like a second tier experience, or was something to be kind of looked down on. And it feels like those gatekeeping vibes extends into this. Not everybody can afford to take a trip to go to see a Van Gogh with their own eyes in person. It just can't. It's not possible. It's not in the economic reach of a lot of people. It's also maybe not in that economic reach to own a big player piano, or to make investment in art supplies, or have other things that were featured that were squished in the video. So what this consumer electronic kind of represents is a gateway for people to be able to maybe access those experiences, even in a limited way, that opens up their world and hopefully it creates understanding, and it engenders interest in those things, so that when they do have the wherewithal to maybe purchase some of those things, that they might have a deeper appreciation than someone that is just kind of coming into it as a neophyte. So I don't know, again, that Apple really wanted to say that these things are bad or that you're dumb for having all these big things. I mean, I got a ton of big old computers behind me, okay, that are the real thing. I did not pay top dollar for them. I'm not saying that everybody does pay top dollar for their items that like some of the ones that were featured in Apple's video. But I don't think that owning this somehow elevates me above people that use machines in emulation. I want people in my hobbies at all levels, and if they start with emulation and have a good time with it, why wouldn't they graduate up if they could? You meet people give you things. You know, now now your foot's in the door. Now you're doing this cool hobby that everybody else likes. So I think rather than try to say that there's one right way to do something, or that there's only one way to experience whatever that is, that we've got to make room for all kinds of people to participate at all different levels. Now, I'm probably way off what a lot of people's interpretation was at this point, but I watched it several times, and I didn't have that visceral sort of like, oh, you're crushing my stuff. Like, what would happen if they crushed a bunch of old Macintoshes? Well, I don't know that they really did. Did they really even crush those other things? Was it CGI? Were they props that were sweetened with CGI? I don't know. I don't think that information has been released. But I do hope that it's possible for people to maybe think outside of their sort of personal feelings about the objects that you saw being crushed, and think about it from the aspect that, again, the end result of that destruction was creation, was a tool to help people create. Do you have a different opinion? You probably do, and that's totally fine. I think the only way that we reach understanding is by listening to each other's ideas respectfully. What I would like you to do now is leave what your opinion is in the comments. Temper that with the fact that we are friends and that we are respectful to one another. But I would love to hear what you felt. Did you feel a visceral reaction when you saw things being crushed? Was that reaction tempered when you saw that it was resulting in an object that you could then use for creative purposes? I don't know. I'd love to hear about it.